It's a privilege to introduce Ambassador Skand Tayal sir, former Indian ambassador to the Republic of Korea and member of the advisory committee at MER, Center of International Studies. An outstanding diplomat, he served in the key Indian missions worldwide, including Sofia, Warsaw, Geneva, Moscow, and as consul general in Johannesburg and Houston. He was the ambassador of India to Uzbekistan and later to Republic of Korea. Sir is also a visiting professor at the Delhi University and the author of the book India and Republic of Korea, Engaged Democracies. Please join me in welcoming Sir.
Good afternoon. First, my compliments to Shri I.P. Agrawal ji and Professor Lalit Agrawal ji for establishing this MERI Center for International Studies. And congratulations to Professor Ramakant for launching it with a lot of energy, a lot of dynamism and a lot of enthusiasm, with the full support of the faculty and students of this very eminent institute. Now, India's relations with East Asia. First thing which comes to my mind is that India is both in South Asia and East Asia. Of course, from the very beginning, India was in South Asia till the turn of the century. Then ASEAN started to look outwards. There was an ASEAN +3, Professor Kandapalli will remember. China, Japan, and Republic of Korea interaction started. Then Japan and Singapore were a little hesitant that too much weight for China, so they worked with ASEAN, and the definition of East Asia was expanded to include India, Australia, and New Zealand. And if you look at the map, India and Myanmar, we share a long 2,000-3,000 kilometer border. Myanmar is part of East Asia, ASEAN. And if you look at the maritime map, then the Indonesian islands are just about 100 nautical miles from Andaman Nicobar Island chains. So we are very much there, both in East Asia and South Asia. If we focus on East Asia, after Second World War, there was a lot of turmoil, Indochina, conflict, this and that. But after 1975 surrender, US troops fled, as they did later from Afghanistan. East Asia has been quite peaceful. And there have been some small conflicts, and there has been tremendous economic progress. All the Asian tigers, Korea, they were always there, but other countries also joined. There was some competition, competitive nationalism, but no country faced any existential threat. And most of the countries moved forward on the path of development and prosperity. And ASEAN took a leading role, but its activities were mostly focused on economic pursuits, economic cooperation. Then, of course, regional comprehensive economic partnership, and India has not joined it. I'm sure you know the reasons. But all this peace and tranquility and very steady trajectory of prosperity, growth, and development was disturbed. It was disturbed from about 2012, and some policies of our neighbor to the east, which started to disturb the status quo. Creeping expansionism in South China Sea, but the real issue is control over natural resources of the entire South China Sea, which China started from 2012, and what we are seeing today United States is following China and is trying to control economic resources, whether it is Greenland, whether it is Gaza, whether whatever it is. But I think geo-economist is trumping geopolitics. Well, but the whole world is in a little bit of unsteady situation that which way we are headed. And if there can be a rapprochement, there can be a dialogue, and there can be some understanding between Russia and US at the cost of, well, if not centuries, at least of last century, very close partnership between United States and Europe, the transatlantic partnership, then all equations are up in the air. All strategic equations are fluid, flexible. There's nothing permanent, and all the countries have to be very, very watchful. Now, but in this entire scenario, one point needs, as a former Indian diplomat, Indian national, I think one can underline that if President Trump wants burden sharing for security, whether it is from Taiwan, whether it is from Ukraine, whether it is from European Union, whether it is from Republic of Korea, we wanted more cost sharing for the 27,000 US troops. India is prepared to share that cost. We only want technology and equipment. So in that, perhaps there is no dissonance between whatever President Trump is looking for and whatever India is prepared to do. Now, of course, Professor Gandapalli is there. He'll talk about India-China relations. But the one small fact that the defense expenditure of China, as per Jane's book estimates, is more than the combined defense expenditure of all the East Asian major countries, if you exclude United States. India, China, Republic of Korea, Vietnam, Australia, New Zealand, you name everybody, and together the defense expenditure is less than the defense expenditure of China. One has to be mindful of that. And of course, as was mentioned, China is the largest trade partner of all Asian, East Asian economies. For us, it is up and down, sometimes US, sometimes China. But for the future strategic equilibrium of East Asia, I think the defining relationship would be between China-US, China-Japan, and China-India. And while there could be some element of certainty or directional confidence for China-Japan and China-India, China-US is uncertain at this point. When we look at East Asia, one needs to spend a couple of minutes on ASEAN, Association for Southeast Asian Nations, 10 members. And always you have, whoever is following international relations would have followed this mantra, the centrality of ASEAN, centrality of ASEAN. I think that is seriously in question. ASEAN's focus is on economic integration, but for any kind of political, strategic, or meaningful, even dialogue, forget action, it has been totally ineffective. And that is a reality which people are a little hesitant to speak out in presence of ASEAN countries, but everybody understands. Because the decision making within ASEAN is by consensus, unanimity. And that means there can be no consensus even on such an C code of conduct. For 2 decades, sub negotiations are going on, which will be endless. There can never be any code of conduct because China has taken possession of it, and it is just a de facto thing, and whatever the other countries may say. And well, now that I am a retired diplomat, I can say that Cambodia and Laos are Chinese puppets in ASEAN, which I could never have said when I was serving as a diplomat. So I think ASEAN, to expect any action from ASEAN, one should just forget. Then, of course, we are there in East Asia Summit, etc. But frankly, our Prime Minister wastes his time when he goes there. All right. With that, let me come to India and South Korea. Now, that is a very, very important relationship. Again, I will say more from economic point of view. And since 1993, there has been very steady improvement after Prime Minister Narasimha Rao's visit. And I will disregard modesty and say that it took a quantum jump when I was ambassador there. And since 2010, we had a strategic partnership. The then President Lee Myung-bak was the chief guest at our Republic Day celebrations. We signed the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement, and really the trade at that time had touched $22 billion. And again, it is, I think, about $26 billion, 15 years have passed. But if we look at Republic of Korea in geostrategic terms, I think one factor one needs to appreciate as a student of international relations, that the Korean society is a deeply divided society, both politically and socially maybe, which we are watching on what's going on there. But as the democracy is in full flow, full flourish, and the presidents change, the control of the National Assembly changes, and the rightist parties, which President Yoon is, they are more pro-US, and the opposition Democratic Party is more even-handed between US and China. But again, I can say now, our Korean colleague is here, we should never expect that Republic of Korea would ever take an open position against China. What is happening now that President Yoon is attending NATO summits and this and that, I think that is temporary and that will go away. I recall an incident when I was ambassador there. There was a proposal for ADB funding of a project in Arunachal Pradesh, Ambassador Sharma. We were all ambassadors were asked to canvass that in the board, Korea is also a member, ADB board, that they vote for us in that. So I went to the deputy minister in Seoul and requested. Then he had a big map of the world behind his chair. He got up and said, Ambassador, look at China, look at Korea, look at India. And we cannot publicly oppose China. It was a statement of fact which we should understand and appreciate. So, what I'm trying to say is that the core of India-South Korea relations would be economic. It will perhaps not be strategic where our real interests are concerned. And again, I will share something. I was there when the tragedy of 26 November happened, Bombay. So many people died. 10 terrorists from Pakistan came. Korean Consul General in Mumbai was in Hotel Taj dining at the top with a lot of friends, and with great difficulty he escaped. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. I went to Korean Foreign Ministry many times, but there was no statement pointing any finger at Pakistan. And I didn't like it. Anyway, such is diplomacy, such is life. So, coming back to where we are today, Republic of Korea can be a real partner in Atmanirbhar Bharat because the Korean industry as well as Korean people are comfortable living in India, investing in India, and working in India. That is a very big plus. But we have to set our own house in order. When I interact informally with my Korean friends in industry, our customs, Dr. Agarwal, is a big problem. They can stop any consignment at any time on any ground. So when we talk about value chains, when Prime Minister talks about that foreign companies should invest here in global value chains so that all of our youngsters can get jobs, they cannot be part because the timelines are very thin. And they just don't know which consignment will be stored by our customs. I need not go in detail, you know the reasons. So, but rules of origin is a big problem. That if it's 100 rupees worth of goods coming, the 10% is coming from China, 5% is coming from Vietnam, 30% is coming from somewhere else, what custom duty to charge? That is, so this is something which management side can address. But we are cooperating in maritime security, cyber security, and in defense production. Defense production, the problem is that the Korean companies are very reluctant to transfer technology. And Korean embassies, they are all very, they are aware. But the Korean private sector is Korean private sector. But in K9 Howitzers, which are being manufactured by L&T, 100 have been already delivered, 100 more have been ordered. Koreans have very good technology, and it is very cost effective. But the problem is transfer of technology. In conclusion, I'll say that the international situation is very fluid. All the strategic equations are changing, and every country has to be watchful and on guard to enhance and increase the number of well-wishers and friends. And there, India and Republic of Korea are best friends. We want the best for Republic of Korea, their people, their government, their industry, and they want the best for us. In both countries, there is total bipartisan support for excellent India-Korea relations. Governments change there, governments have changed here, but this trajectory of very strong and powerful India-Korea relations has continued and will continue on the same lines. And both Republic of Korea and India are factors for peace, stability, security, and economic prosperity, both in the region and in the world. Thank you very much.